I'm here with Kris Osborn. He's the founder and the editor-in-chief of RoundTable Warrior Maven, an expert on all things military defense. Kris, you've got your fingers in all kinds of pockets of from defense officials to military officials, analysts, and every day you read something in the press about China just becoming more and more aggressive around Taiwan. And from the outside, it looks like it's all just posturing. Like, oh, they're flying more planes in. They're moving into the South China Sea, whatever. Is it more than just trying to peacock feather?
Hey, Rob, great to be with you. Really interesting question. I think the prevailing consensus, and it may be evolving more in this direction now, is that there's a really significant and quite serious, a steadfast interest on the part of China to ultimately annex and create their one China policy, to basically take over Taiwan. Not long ago, the thinking was perhaps it was longer term. However, with the advent of hypersonics, the size of their Navy, and some of the current climate in terms of the geopolitical environment, they may think now is our best option, particularly with the U.S. leaving Afghanistan was one factor among many others. So they may think that they might be capable or well positioned to go take it now.
So I want to jump into the specifics on that, but first, when you say might be shorter term, take it now, does that mean like in the next 3 months or in the next 3 years? What is now for China's got a real long-term view of things. What might now be? Are we looking at something that could happen in 2 weeks? Obviously, that'd be a little thing.
Well, I like what you said about long-term view, because a lot of the Pentagon reports talk about the Chinese ambition of by 2049, the centennial, the 100-year mark of the founding of the PRC, they'll be the global dominant power. And there may be some thinking, this is a conjecture or just thinking out loud on my part, they may move earlier because of this pace of their modernization and perhaps the thought that it might be achievable. And the notion of, the previous notion of perhaps allowing for a somewhat autonomous Taiwan is disintegrated according to the Pentagon. Or to a large degree.
So what are officials saying though? Just on the time frame thing, 2049's almost 30 years away. Clearly, people are going. They might do some. I mean, with all this military presence that they're showing, they might do something. What in the next year while Biden's still president?
Well, it's interesting. There's no real guarantee of exactly what they would do when. What you hear is there is an uptick in provocative behavior. They conduct amphibious assault drills near Taiwan. They're overloading the Taiwanese air zone with fighter jets and different kinds of assets from the air. They're conducting war operations and even dual carrier drills to kind of copy the U.S. Navy. They're now second aircraft carrier being operational in the sense of a higher up-tempo, a higher sortie rate if you have to project power from the air. But the Chinese wouldn't have to travel far. They're 100 miles from the coast. So depending on where you take off within mainland China, you can get there even with or even without a tanker and make air attacks.
So how quickly do some officials, legit military officials, think China could, if they did want to be aggressive and make a move? I mean, again, I think to the public, it's like, oh, well, this has been going on forever. Is this something they worry like this? Again, I'm going to push for a time frame, not that you know exactly, but they worry in the next year it would be conceivable China could just decide, hey, let's just do it. Let's just put troops on the ground.
I'm thinking that there probably is this thought that something could be imminent and there is a need to be ready. That's certainly what you hear when you talk about the increased aggression, when you talk about the provocative behavior, and when you talk about the finding of missile silos on mainland China, the pace at which they intend to continue expanding their nuclear arsenal, the pace at which they're constructing and doing shipbuilding and adding new amphibs and carriers, and then, of course, the pace at which they're also producing fifth-generation fighter jets. So the time frame is something the U.S. and the Pentagon talks about a lot. We want to quicken our own developmental curve so we can match them in terms of numbers and retain our technical superiority. So
right.
Certainly the idea is to be prepared for the contingency. No one knows what they'll do or when they would do it, but certainly the Pentagon wants to be ready.
Last question on this, though. How quickly could China act because they're so close? Is this something that they could literally, if they decided tomorrow we want to do this, they could move in a month? Are they that capable, readiness-wise?
Well, you certainly raised a key point because it was addressed by the Pentagon report on China which is you seem to anticipate what that thinking was, which is the notion of a fait accompli, the idea of could China annex Taiwan so quickly, ultimately establish an on-the-ground presence and annex the area so as to make it too costly for any kind of counterattack. So it raises the question of could the U.S. and Taiwanese forces intervene early enough, fast enough? Could they see an impending attack early enough to stop? A lot of the conventional thinking is they most likely, they probably would not be able to stop a rapid takeover of the island. I don't know. That's sort of an interesting question.
So,
I mean, it depends on how close the Navy is, which is why you see carrier presence, which is why you see drones, which is why you see so much activity in the U.S. in the area. They might be able to stop it.